And we're live.
Be a problem.
And here's Khalid. Hello, Khalid. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. That was weird. I don't know why the sound was suddenly cut off. Yeah, sorry about that. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, good to see you again. I see you're back in Jordan, where it's rather cooler than the Far East in the Philippines and Indonesia.
Yeah, it's not that much cooler. It's like mid-20s and during the day. It probably is quite warm right now. But because of the building design, the there's some sort of flip happens with temperatures within the house, so the house is cooler than outside. It's actually always cooler than outside. um but yeah, so yeah, I'm kind
Yes,
of
you look
often
very
wearing
warmly
shorts.
dressed.
Yes, I'm
Are
wearing
you?
a traditional winter coat that people wear inside. They don't really put much heating on. Yeah, it's basically like a blanket. I'm probably
Uh-huh.
overdoing it, but yeah.
Right, right. So, would you like to tell us about your impressions of Indonesia and the Philippines, for people who haven't been
Short
viewing your videos?
Yeah, short version is, although I had a fun time meeting my friends, I didn't really like it. And one of the reasons why I was going to Indonesia and the Philippines was like, oh, would it be a nice place to move to? And I become increasingly aware of how YouTube influencers try to make everything look really good and miss out all the bad things, because videos that mention the bad things are not as popular. They want to see how amazing it is and they'll like the video, and then yeah, they'll get lots of money out of getting high rating video. But yeah, Indonesia not nearly as well developed. Open sewers, houses look terrible. And I've got a high bar to compare with. I'm not comparing it to England. I think England's terrible. I've already run away from England. Um, but the food is a very low standard. And maybe you can
Mm.
tell me something about this, right? It'll be interesting your perspective. But I think the Chinese sort of influence, even though Indonesia is a Muslim country, they do things in a very Chinesey way. For example, they say "Assalamu alaikum" like this, or a Hindu sort of way, and then they'll give things out respect. It sort of has maybe a Japanese feeling to it or something. They'll give things with two hands. They're very respectful,
Mhm.
which I actually found boring. I don't like too respectful. I like Jordanians, which are like out of control, really funny, very social. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, I didn't really like it, but that's fine. It was kind of like to explore the place. I did had some interesting times, like jumped off a mountain, that paragliding thing. I don't know if I mentioned it last
What?
week. No.
Yes, yes, you did. You showed us some pictures or some video footage. So, did you do it on your own, this paragliding thing, or was somebody
Uh,
there kind of?
It was a bunch of kind of casual people who seemed to be doing it, and thankfully it worked. And I did it with my Indonesian friend. Well, when I say I did it with, he did it. He jumped. So I had let's say professional, like kind of casual professional, smoking cigarettes and whatever. Like, yeah, let's jump with me, sort of thing. Um,
Mhm.
and then my friend did it behind me. But it was really beautiful. I was like one of probably the best bit of the trip, because I really enjoyed kind of appreciating nature like from a bird's eye view. So the thing I liked probably maybe the most, I don't know, was that it's far more green Indonesia, because it's kind of always hot and very rainy there.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I like that, and it was kind of had better infrastructure than Jordan, I would say, in terms of trains, because Jordan's got lots of great roads, but it doesn't have any trains.
Mhm.
So it was good in that sense. And
Right.
Philippines was like had I would say the lack of Islam, and sometimes I feel it more. Maybe you can tell me something about this. The lack of Islam made the food quality really low. like in Islam, you've got rules about everything, about food standards and everything. And so Indonesia had slightly low standards, but Philippines was just rock bottom. The only place I could eat were like a Muslim restaurant.
Right. So in what
but-
ways were Indonesian restaurants? You didn't like the food, or you just didn't like?
Oh yeah, I should have said. So something like the hygiene didn't look great, like exposed and open. Like in Islam, one of the rules is that your food should always be covered, protected, so nothing can go on it. So it didn't really always have the whole kind of yeah, the street food wasn't very clean looking.
Did you try any though, or
Oh yeah,
did you
yeah. I
just?
tried different things, and I didn't
Mhm.
like my taste buds were like I think we're built to if you're sensitive enough or eat good enough food regularly, you're sensitive to bad quality food, and I could taste bad quality. So yeah, wasn't impressed by it.
Did you try any of the local dishes?
Yeah. I went to the local whatever. I tried different things. Yeah. Yeah. So
Do you
and the
remember any of
Porsche,
the dishes?
the names you mean? Oh, the name. There's a famous one. My friend was going. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. And it was just like essentially egg fried rice with tiny bits of chicken in it, and they cut.
Nasi goreng, probably.
That's the one. That's the one.
It just means fried rice, and
Is that all it means? I don't know what my friend was
that's
so
what it means.
excited about it. It's like you gotta have it. It's so cheap. It's like okay, it's cheap, but it's just egg fried rice, so why shouldn't it be expensive? But I mean, so in Jordan, you've got a high bar to compare with. You've got cheap, like low cost food, high quality, and they really care about how they produce their food. They're artisans in both food and buildings and how they do just anything they do it really well. They're not exactly the brightest, but yeah, go on.
May I know what you tried in the Philippines in the way of local food?
Had a pizza. I went to a more.
That's not local to Philippines.
I know it's not local, but like even the way they make any of their food is just like small portions, overpriced and disgusting. Like they can't even make pizza properly. What local food did I have? I had to avoid the actual local food because it looks like it was pork and there's lots of like open exposed. It looks so disgusting. I didn't want to try anything after that. And my friend said, who's a Muslim, they're like an imam. Like I'm an Ahmadi Muslim, and we're very super organized, and we can just like click on the map and phone up people who we know there. Like I don't actually know the person, but like he's the national leader of the place, like appointed according to our Muslim community. Anyway, so I clicked on him, emailed whatever. He responded, and we were WhatsApping before I arrived. Anyway, so he told me like, be really careful. Your instincts are totally right. He said to me, because they recycled like junk, like food thrown out in the bins, and they'll recycle it. You have to go to proper establishments. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, because the whole place was like, I was shocked. Like I thought Manila, the capital, should be really good, and like you're going through from the airport to my hotel, and I was like, wow, the whole place is just derelict, decrepit, people on the streets. It was disgusting, you know.
Which part of Manila did you stay in, if we can?
Yeah, I mean, I think you asked me a place, and that sounded familiar.
Well, I said Makati, which is a business district.
Okay, I mean that seemed. It wasn't a business district, but I remember that name being close to me on the map. That's what I remember. But maybe not judging the distances properly or something. But yeah, I was not impressed. I even got to so I was looking for third wife, and that's why I contacted the Emir. I say Emir, that's means the national president of the Ahmadiyya. And he said, yeah, you can find one, but you have to go to this far off village. And that was a long story. I could talk about that.
Yeah, please do. So, what he
Oh,
said,
okay.
you should go to Mindanao or somewhere
I
like
think,
that.
did we have a discussion? I think you were probably right. Sounds about right. It's like
Well,
the
it's a
far
different
off
island.
south.
Manila is
Yes.
in Luzon, right? And
Yes.
Mindanao is where all the Muslims hang out.
Yes, that sounds about right. That's okay. But the problem was that they so they're into polygyny. They have no problem with that, but they're scared. They've got a very, how do you describe it, village mentality, whatever you call it, or island mentality, where they've never gone off the island. They're scared of anybody leaving, including their daughters leaving the island. So and it's a horrible place to live, because when I say not the whole island, but the way they live, they've got used to, is they can't afford. They're incredibly poor. They can't afford to live on the island, so they live on like these stilt houses off the island, and they throw their trash on the floor. And when you have, he told me, like, when you have high tide, the trash or the rubbish rises in the house. It's like, oh my God. I mean, I wouldn't mind building a house there. Like, the local Ahmadiyya community have built a house for him there because the standards are too low. But like, then the food, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I'll message him later on if I reconsider going there. But it's like, first sight, it was even a nightmare just going there. He's like, first of all, you have to go under armed guard because the Muslim areas are unfortunately like really bad. Like, they'll kidnap you basically. So you have to go under armed guard. Can't trust the police. The police will just send you straight to the kidnappers. And what else? Like, it's a 10-hour boat ride after you get on that. It's horrible. It just sounds crazy. So yeah. But I think it's an interesting discussion in the sense that like, I find a lot of, let's say, white people, and I try to help white people in my show and your show, I think, where they just kind of give up and they go, oh no, it's so bad. Oh no, it was so difficult that we couldn't find a wife or something. It's just a process. Like, had an interesting time, learned something about the world. What I learned was how much I love Jordan. And I was wondering about, like, do I want to spend the next 10 years and build a house here? Because you can build a house really cheap, really well, whatever. The standard of house building is incredibly good here compared to what I saw in Indonesia and the Philippines. Philippines was like zero. Like, the whole place was decrepit. It was horrible. Like, I didn't want water to drop on my head just in case it touched one of the dirty buildings, sort of thing. So yeah, it's just like, and the people, I just find the people in Jordan like 100 times more interesting because they're just funny and friendly. I don't need
and they
people
speak
being
English.
super respectful. In Indonesia, they speak some English. Philippines, they 50% speak English. Like, there's a lot of poor people who don't know anything, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, enough people speak English, I guess. Yeah, that's why I went there.
In Jordan, but they speak
in Jordan.
English.
They speak English in the more well-off places. So yeah, you have to go to those areas to get. So you get enough people speaking English here to get about. Yeah.
So did you actually go to Mindanao or not?
No, I didn't. No.
Right.
What I did was I went to Indonesia. I was there basically for 2 weeks, and I thought, rather than doing a whole trip all the way from Jordan to Philippines to check it out, I'll do like a 3-day trip just to get a feel. Just pop there, and I was like desperate to come back, and it was horrible. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you see anything when you were in Manila?
Did I see anything like sightseeing kind of stuff?
Yes.
No, not really. No.
Right.
No, I didn't. I mean, it was a short trip. It was more like, you know,
But
it's
how,
just
how could you check out the women? I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
so I mean, I went around a little bit. So I'll tell you some of the funny stories. So basically, I asked this guy, the national president, let's say, of the Ahmadiyya community there, and that, I mean, even that process is quite funny and interesting, because he had to check up if I was an Ahmadi Muslim. So he contacted London, he contacted Jordan and stuff like that, and confirmed and stuff. That could be an interesting discussion by itself. But then I also asked the local Muslims there in the Muslim restaurant, and he said the standard of the Muslims, the so-called Muslim, well, I don't want to say so-called Muslim, the Muslims in the Philippines are pretty low. They're not that interested in marriage or something. They kind of have babies, and then, like, basically I got one guy sent me a photo of a 27-year-old who's had 2 children already. It's like, forget 2, don't want that.
yeah.
Like, you made your mistakes and now you want me to pay for it, sort of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just talked to different people. I'll tell you the funny stuff. So one of the things he told me, because I was kind of unaware of what was going on, because I was a newbie there, he goes, watch out for the prostitutes and watch out for the ladyboys. And I go, where are they? And he just said, step out the restaurant. He just took me outside the restaurant and said, those girls sitting there, all prostitutes. And then that one, he half guessed it was a ladyboy. And he said, he came up to that person and said, are you a ladyboy? And he didn't deny it. And I was saying, like, he's got tiny little breasts. Like, how is that? Like, they've got no money, so how can they afford surgery? And he said, no, they just take pills and does that. So he was kind of like really looked like a woman. So yeah, not easy to tell.
Right. Was it a possibly attractive woman?
Yeah, regrettably, if I didn't know.
You would know. You might have asked her.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's horrible just to think about it, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can imagine it afterward, but a lot of women, you could kind of, I think if you cut the hair off and give them a different haircut, they could possibly pass for men. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
was
I mean,
looking
you
at
know
the
what I mean? The
woman
other way
on a
around, it's
tube.
possible. Sorry?
Yeah. I was looking at the woman on a tube 2 days ago, and I thought, are you a man or a woman? I mean, but I could tell from the breast that she was a woman, but she had the face of
Yeah,
a man because she had short hair, and and there was nothing particularly feminine about her face. And she was
yeah,
quite the kind of stocky and round kind of thing, but stout, fat maybe you might call her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh. Well, I'm sorry it was a little disappointing. I mean, were there did you go to the Ahmadi Mosque in
Yeah, yeah.
either? But
In both
there weren't
places.
any sort of single women there.
No, it's very quiet in Manila. Most of the converts so in the Philippines, most of the converts are in the south, in this far off island, and the ones in Manila are kind of really spread out. So I didn't meet any. No. In Indonesia, yeah, I went to a couple of mosques. I mean, you've, I think, seen some of my videos. I went to a mountain community of the Ahmadiyya Muslims there as well. We went really far up, like spent an hour going up on a mountain. And I got a nice Chinesey funny hat that you've seen, the ones that are famous with Kung Fu Panda and all those kind of things. The whatever, I haven't got it here somewhere, but yeah. So yeah, I met different groups there. Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting. It was nice. It's really always nice to like meet the local community in different countries, especially in Philippines, because I was like physically feeling sick by being surrounded by prostitutes and lady men and nasty places. Really, it felt like physically I felt disgusted.
You should have talked to them on your YouTube channel. Right.
Oh, it's not
That
that
would have
kind of
been
channel.
such a hit. Oh, come on. You
Uh,
missed an opportunity there.
No, yeah, it was just horrible. The whole place was really disgusting. So I kind of felt relieved by talking to another Ahmadi Muslim, kind of spiritual relief of some sort.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So
Yeah.
one final question about the gliding thing. Were you actually the only person on your glider, or was there somebody
No, I
helping
was
you?
paired with a person who knew what he was doing. Yeah. So
Okay.
he was like behind me, and I just had to run and jump off the thing and trust that he knew what he was doing.
Right.
So, yeah,
And
the whole
how
bunch does. Yeah, go on.
I was gonna ask how long was your, glide, your journey?
It felt like 10 minutes, I guess.
Mhm.
It was amazing. The whole atmosphere is quite interesting. It's like on the top of the mountain, there's loads of people just watching and recording, not on the
Mhm.
side. And when you land, it's really nice because you land in a sort of park where there's kids running around, and you land right in the middle because they literally got a spot that's about that big, and they aim to land on that spot or something. And so you
Mhm.
don't, yeah, they can control it really well. And so it's kind of nice to land in a community of people watching and recording and stuff like that. And
Like
it's,
you're some, actor or some
sorry,
like
what?
some actor or something, people, waiting for you to come on stage kind of thing, maybe?
No, not that. I'm not interested in people's like approval or attention or something. It's just I like community. I like that it's not just pure just paragliding. You just, yeah, like I like people sharing in the joy of the scene of
Mhm.
people floating down off a mountain. It's quite a nice thing, and the kids enjoying it, and
Mhm.
everybody, families, that kind of thing.
Oh,
That's what I enjoy.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I love about Jordan. Like I'm always kind of exploring what's important to me. So I came and met my friend, and we the other day, like, and kind of reviewing how Indonesia was. Like, I met a friend from, like I've got like let's say I went to see a friend in Indonesia who'd been living here in Jordan, and who's also a friend of my other friend. We're all mutual friends, right? And just reviewing how it was, and and also, like, I thought, I miss all the great food in Jordan, so we went and stuffed our face with all the nice food there, and I was like, nope, didn't really enjoy that. I'm trying to
Mhm.
find what I really really enjoy, and I think it kind of boils down to just talking meaningful conversations, simple life, um, good weather or something like that. So I'm trying to figure that out. Does
Yes,
that
I
make
can
any
imagine
sense?
it would be very frustrating if nobody understood what you were saying. That must be, the most lonely experience of a traveller, not being understood.
No, yeah, I think, okay, what it is, I think I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've got, life is easy here, and I'm thinking about what is it that I really, really want. I've got that space to think about it. And when you try lots of different things, you go, okay, you can have really nice food in Jordan or whatever, but we were just stuffed, and I didn't really enjoy that process. It's like, maybe, like, even though the food looks good, my point is I'm trying to search for I'm trying to, what's the word? Um, tailor my life? Tailor? No, design my life.
Calibrate.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's my perfect trajectory, and I think it's a good thing people should try to do. People don't do it enough because they don't take the risk to jump into, like, okay, I've got a brother who earns way more than me and is in debt like all the time, like, and is in a tiny flat and whatever in London, and it's like, why don't you just leave England? Like, it's so crap, or jump into
Has he
another
got
job.
children?
He's got two big kids. Um,
Or
yeah, and
teenagers or grown up?
yeah, they're like physically really big as well. They're only like 12 and 14ish or something,
I
right?
suppose as a parent, you would worry about disrupting their
Uh,
education.
yeah, so he's really concerned about that kind of stuff, and I'm not. I'm more interested in my kids having like a good world view, experiencing the world, and but they should be reasonably educated as well. and they're doing well. Like my daughter, this is kind of funny. My middle daughter is winning loads of competitions in English because she's the only British person.
Mhm.
Like she's won loads of competitions now, and she's won best English something speaker or essay writer in Amman, which is the capital. It's like the whole massive region. She keeps winning, and then now she's next in line with best in Jordan, which would be just hilarious. Fun. But it's kind of like she's learning important things. Like she's learning a different language, she's learning different cultures, she's learning science and all the other normal stuff as well. And she's working hard at it. And yeah, and I've got my other girls doing whatever as well. One's doing architecture and one's just learning to behave nicely with other people. She's only 5, so yeah. She makes me laugh as well. She broke some kids' pencils, and then she had to give pencils to the whole class afterwards. But yeah,
Good.
she got angry with the boy next to her or something. It's just I shouldn't enjoy that kind of
She's
stuff.
very strong to break pencils.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know how she broke a pencil. Yeah,
But with her bare hands.
Yeah, she's not in she didn't have she's not. I don't think she's that smart to figure out a mechanism other than her hands. I have to find out how she did it. Pretty impressive, actually. Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever broken a pencil with your bare hands?
I haven't. I can't remember doing that.
Yeah,
maybe when I was a kid.
In I don't know, cartoons or comedies, when somebody's so angry they broke a pencil with his bare hand, but never a child or a woman.
When will I talk to EMJ again? I'm hoping not this week, but next week, I think. Yeah, because I said every month.
Yes.
So that's the plan. This week coming, I contacted Nathan. He didn't explain to me who he is, but I figured it out. Well, when I emailed him and saw the picture, he's the Catholic who's against usury, which is pretty impressive. He sounds like an interesting person. So thanks for putting us in contact. So yeah, hopefully you'll have some.
Did you speak to him briefly? In
was he on that call?
Yeah, that was. Well, he was
really?
American. I think he did come on just to talk to you.
Did he? Oh my gosh, really?
Okay. Well, I knew that was a while back, but I seem to remember that he did come on specially to ask you questions.
Oh, really? Maybe he was, and I've just got really bad memory. I vaguely remember something like that now. I have to go back to that stream, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe can you send me a link to that stream, because I don't seem to be able to find stuff on your channel. Like I was looking for that stream when there was a couple of people talking. Yeah. So
yeah,
you can find it.
Yes.
At some point. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting one. I think I might, and I want to talk to EMJ about similar things. So both Catholics, this guy Nathan and EMJ. So this week I'm talking to Nathan about basically, was Hitler right to say that Jews control us through usury? And for people who don't know what usury is, it's this thing called interest-based loans, which has become normalized, but used to be, I say, illegal in Christendom in Europe and everywhere, basically. But it's only Islam that still clearly forbids it. Judaism says, yeah, it's okay as long as you do it to the non-Jews, which is, I suppose, a sort of supremacist sort of view. Like selling, like if you're forbidden from selling drugs to everybody, but you go, oh, you can sell it to the non-Jews, that's all right. That's not a very good approach. So yeah, so that's going to be an interesting discussion, and I'm thinking of discussing that with EMJ, E. Michael Jones, because I want to slowly go through different principles. Like I think the reason why Christendom or Christians or white people are really suffering is because they're not clear about rules anymore. And if we could tell them the rules, reiterate biblical rules, because I want to help white people and say, this is what the Bible says.
There are no biblical rules, though. There are no. There are
no biblical rules. It's just Old Testament. Is that what you mean? Like there's only really the Old Testament. Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, there's nothing in the New Testament that you can say, aha, this is a rule and we can follow it, because, you know,
you've got the opposite. You've got the law. It says the law is a curse. So you've got a big problem there. That's saying that the laws of the Old Testament are a curse. So like, don't follow them, which is
does it say that? Sorry, I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, it was.
Does it say the laws are a curse?
St. Paul, unfortunately, St. Paul, he just basically demolished the whole of Christianity, and he basically runs Christian theology.
Saul of Tarsus.
Him. Yeah, the law is a curse is a famous one, I think. The law is a curse.
The laws of a curse.
The law is a curse. It's like just following the law is just essentially, he called it a curse because whatever logic he had, it's like a thing people had to follow in the past, but now you just have to believe in Jesus and you're free from the laws of the Bible. Let me just say,
yes, it's in Galatians, or the law brings a curse. Something like that.
Well, the law, Galatians 3:10, the law is a curse.
The law brings a curse, maybe. Yes, okay.
Well, depends on the translation, but yeah.
Yes.
But it's not great. It's not a great position to start from when you need some laws. But I'm not going to press too hard on it, because in the past I scare Christians off by talking about it too much.
Well, I don't know. They kind of need. I try to explain to these people, it's like, look, you need some idea that there are rules that your government should obey, right? And you need to know when they break the rules that they claim to keep. That is why it's so important to know what the rules are, because it's like you're forced to play a game. You need to know what the object of the game is, what the rules of the game are, or you're going to lose, right? And people will cheat you, or you won't even know. And this is all I'm trying to explain to these people. It's like, oh, the law, we hate the law, we hate the police, we hate the government, blah, blah, blah. And, they're basically peasants who, don't understand or refuse to understand, because they won't hear anything against Christianity, because, it's a religion of their ancestors. But then, they don't even understand their own history and don't know how their ancestors suffered when, kings of England just randomly made up rules and took everybody's stuff and had everyone executed and, exiled and thrown into dungeons without due process. And, so, we are talking to people who don't really understand their own history, or even how, the whole thing works. So, we may have bad laws, and at least we can say, well, we want to change these bad laws. We want to repeal them. We want better laws, or, and currently what we have is this idea that we can trust MPs to make up the rules as they go along. That is basically the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy, which means actually Parliament has the right of an absolute monarch over us, because under the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy, Parliament can repeal or pass any law. And I
think the whole West is, it's not just, you're talking about Parliament in the UK system. The whole West is suffering from a lack of guidance. And as you say, you really can't depend on politicians to give you guidance and depend on the laws they make up, because they're just self-serving. They're not even self-serving. They're like serving somebody up there who pulls the strings. So like, you really need God-made laws. And it's amazing how amazing, like the Abrahamic religions say that you shouldn't have usury, and now we can see usury destroying the whole world. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you would
a
have
really
thought,
amazing.
Gentiles would know. But if Jews are not supposed to practice usury on each other, obviously they think it's bad for
Yes,
themselves. Because
yes,
then some of them will get very rich and others get very poor and be exploited by the rich capitalists, etc., etc. So, I think Jews are useful just for, if you understand these laws, it's like, well, if Jews don't do it to each other, should we do it to each other, kind of thing.
yeah,
You know, and then Islam comes along and says nobody should practice usury because you see the consequences of for Jews. It's like everybody invited the Jews in when they wanted to borrow money from them, and then when the European kings got tired of paying the interest on these loans, they would kick the Jews out. That's why
yeah.
that's why they keep getting kicked out. And also, they don't obey their own rules because they're supposed to observe a jubilee. I think it's every 7 years or 11 years. They're supposed to free slaves and forgive debt, and they
Ah,
didn't, right? And because
yeah.
they didn't, I guess the people who had to pay them interest realised that we'll never pay it back. We can live until we die, and we'll never be able to pay back the whole thing and be free of debt. So we'll just get rid of these Jews, right? I mean,
Mm.
that was they don't seem to know that either. I mean,
Yeah,
so
it's good to know your
it's
history and where. Yeah, it's good to know where all of this stuff came from. Like, first of all, realize that interest-based loans was like forbidden for so long. Why would it be forbidden? But now, if you don't study history or look back at how things develop, you kind of think it's always been like that. It's a normal part of banking, and that's the danger. Like, just the fact that it's been normalized as if it's just normal. It's like, oh, that's how things work. How can you get rid of it? That's a dangerous way of thinking.
yeah.
But just for people, yeah, go on.
But because I'm saying, we're now in a position of we can barely service the monthly payments, let alone the actual outstanding principal, right? Which they keep borrowing and making future generations pay through their taxes for their stupid wars and you know you know student loans and whatever, and it doesn't even do any good because a lot of these graduates are useless and
Yeah.
have a sense of entitlement and won't do the jobs that really need to be done, like waiting in restaurants and delivering, so
Well, and everybody's got a degree, so there's kind of a degree inflation or deflation, whatever you want to call it, where it becomes useless anyway. And so, yeah.
yeah, you're actually putting people off. You're delaying when somebody begins their working life, right? So if you're going to university, you're not working when you could be, be a carpenter, electrician, or whatever it is that you could be doing. So you have to wait until you're 21. When you've graduated, but you still have to do a master's, borrow more, even more, and then you of course you can't pay for, even for the deposit, and house prices have gone through the roof, and it's all, I guess they want to blame the Jews, but it's like, it's not just Jews who lend on interest. I mean, Gentiles can, practice fractional reserve banking and all that. So, and the
Yeah,
best
it's
way.
not just the Jews. There might be the people who are at the top of the pyramid, as it were, the Rothschilds, etc.
Mhm.
But it's too enticing to get this easy money. So, and you become careless. Once you get the easy money, and that's what the governments have got. They've got easy money. And then they don't have to worry about things so much. They keep spending and spending, and they become careless about not just the future, but they just careless about everybody else, as long as they can make money. And that's why in the teachings of the Quran, before the instructions about avoiding usury, it talks about giving charity, and it's the opposite mindset, because usury creates the hoarding mindset where you just get more and more, and you just get overtaken by satanic thoughts. Like, I want more power, and it's never ending. It has that effect, and that's why you can see such a destructive power in the world. Like, it's destroying the environment. because we're overproducing just to keep up the debt, to keep up payments on debt. It pays for wars. Like, what kind of you have to think about the politicians who are allowing. I mean, even the people in the Emirates are complicit in the Sudan genocide. We've got the Gaza genocide. We've got people being murdered left, right, and center, and it's because politicians are allowing it. But it's all being funded by banks because wars are incredibly expensive. Like, no country can really afford it. So the question, like, you have to think, like, how can anybody willingly be complicit in this? It's disgusting. Like, having people being murdered in their millions, or at least hundreds and thousands. Like, my point is that this kind of money greed can make you really evil.
That people don't really care who their government murders and maims in their name. They don't, you know, it's like
they do because they're protesting. But my point is that like, to be the people who are making it happen, whether you're in the Emirates or you're Israel or you're the Americans, whatever, like, how greedy and nasty and evil do you have to be to fund these wars? Like, my point is, this whole money lending system isn't just bad for the economy, bad for the world, but morally it just makes you just pure evil. And that's the way the Quran describes it. It makes you rise I can't remember the phrase, but rise like one in made crazy by Satan. And that's very much the description, because it doesn't make sense to destroy your own planet, because that's what this whole system is doing by overproducing, and doesn't make sense just to murder people. It doesn't make, you can't really make you a happier person. So it's it's destructive in so many different ways. Sorry?
Yeah, it's just indifference. It's like, you know, poor people in Africa. There's always poor people in Africa. They're always fighting each other. You know, they're stupid. There's so many stupid poor people around. We're rich, we're clever. We'll, you know, enrich ourselves at their expense, and they're too stupid to stop
fighting. But it's not indifference, because you're actually making it happen. Like that kind of, you know, what's happening in the Emirates.
You know, Elliot Blatt, you know, he thinks it's stupid to give up usury. I mean, you know, maybe if he turns up, you can persuade him. But he's saying, this is what makes the world go round. How dare you even think of, you know,
but even if he's told it alternatively,
stupid Muslim, you know, what have you done for yourself? You're under our control. I mean, that's how he thinks, right?
Yeah, and maybe it's worth. I mean, he seems to be stuck on this belief, whatever we tell him, but that's okay. Well, it's not really okay, but you know.
Well, I mean, eventually he will suffer, because he also has to pay taxes to the U.S. government to fund all these wars. And you know, obviously, you know, the more the worse the American government behaves, ordinary American citizens will get it, because of course they will be, you know, held responsible for the bad behavior of their government abroad. So, you know, in the end, it will come back on you.
Nobody will want to trade with them because they're attacking everybody, and then they're going to have to pay for more and more wars. Like, Trump is starting a war with Venezuela, and then all the other countries who've got assets there. China's been building up, you know, I don't know, refineries and stuff to, you know, capitalize on all that oil there.
Everybody knows they can't trust an American.
Sorry?
Everybody will think they can't trust what any American president says.
Absolutely. Me and you, I think we did a video where we like, oh, Trump is great. Now I can't trust a word that comes out of his mouth. So I was duped and I was stupid, but like, less and less people are going to believe anything that they say.
And any politician, but this is such an old joke, because George Bush Sr. All those years ago said, you can tell that a politician is lying because, you know, his lips are moving. He made that joke himself.
I mean, it was bad. Politicians are bad, but this is just next level. And to be fair, Trump even said when he was younger, in his, I don't know, 40s, 50s or something, in a show that he's happy to lie to the public to get position, and I like kind of ignored that. Yeah,
Well,
because I
because I
thought
think
he actually,
people are just
yeah.
casual about lying now, aren't they? It's, I was only joking. Were you so stupid you thought
But
I
he's a
was serious when I
professional.
was only joking? Hmm?
He's like a deliberate liar. Like he's trying to say the most ridiculous things. Oh, you know, he wanted a Nobel Prize, and then maybe Netanyahu should have a Nobel Prize. I don't think they got that far, but like just
But
like really
that would be,
bad.
just completely trashing the reputation of the Nobel Prize, right? If you want to give it
And
to
it's
the biggest
finished.
warmongers, it should be a Nobel War Prize, right?
Mm.
And awarded by the arms manufacturers of the world,
I
because
mean, the Nobels were originally arms. Well, invented the dynamite, right? So
Oh, I didn't know that, but I mean, I understand
yeah.
that the Swedish, but then of course, Sweden is really a U.S. vassal state, and all these identity issues. Britain is a U.S. vassal state. The NATO are all U.S. vassal states. I mean, only Orban is kind of, protesting against the policies of NATO and the EU, and he's the only member state. Protesting, everybody's just, going with the warmongers and supporting,
Mm.
more war in Ukraine.
Mm.
So I really think the only way to force our ruling classes to be better is for us to, right at the bottom, shaming people who tell lies and don't keep their promises. It's got to start somewhere, right? So, but
Mm.
sadly, the people at the bottom are just as corrupt and just as dishonest.
Yeah, so yeah. I agree that the corruption of the politicians just a mirror of the corruption in society, because the politicians come from society, and society's been choosing them, voting for them. So those corrupt politicians give them short-term benefits or short-term offers, like, oh, if you vote for us, we'll give you this short-term thing, and they're not voting for genuinely good people. They didn't vote really enough for Corbyn, who was one of our few. But I think I like to be hopeful, and I think slowly things are changing, and Islam is actually changing that, especially in the UK, because you've got more and more Muslim politicians, and Muslims are the only people who seem to be organized to vote for in a particular direction or something, or they just vote for any Muslim, really, I guess. I mean, how is that working? Why do you think do you feel Muslims are taking over in terms of political things? Like, I mean, what's that Jeremy Corbyn's
Mamdani.
No, Mamdani is another story in America, but we're in the UK, we're well ahead in terms of Muslims taking over everything. Like that, your party, which hasn't been given a name yet by Corbyn, isn't that like a
It's
lot
just
of
such a
them?
stupid name, isn't it?
No, it's a
But
temporary name, but that's just beside the point. Let's get distracted by a really important thing, which is, isn't it like the prominent figures are Muslims behind Jeremy Corbyn? Is that right?
I actually I didn't even bother
But you
looking
should,
into it.
because this is like among like
He's
so
an
many people
intellectual
behind it.
mediocrity anyway, Corbyn.
Come on, you're missing the point again. We're trying to. I would say society would be missing the point if they don't pick people who are decent human beings, at least who stand up to the genocide and all this kind of basic stuff and try to defend basic rights of the poor.
Yes, but he's still an intellectual mediocrity. He doesn't like interviews. He doesn't do well at them, and so the only principal people are just intellectual mediocrities, and the really smart people are making lots of money, telling lots of lies. So obviously the reward and punishment system has to change. Like, well, we're going to reward clever people for being honest.
I don't see him as particularly stupid or something. I mean, we've had Boris Johnson. Like, the people who are in charge aren't particularly clever. Like, Boris Johnson is like
People
super
like
retard.
Boris because
Trump is super retard.
Well, people still like Trump because he tells them lies they want to hear. And
Mm.
Boris was on.
But you were talking about
and people like
intellectual
him because they
ability.
think he's funny, right? Maybe you didn't watch it, but the people who did
Yeah,
watch
they
have
think
got.
I mean, yeah, it's easy to make fun of him because he's stupid, and such a habitual liar, but that's not the point you were making. You were saying that Corbyn, and for people who aren't British, Corbyn was like almost prime minister and kind of the leading
He was leader of the
moral figure.
Labour Party. He did want to leave the EU, and he did want to leave NATO. And then when he was elected leader of the Labour Party, Diane Abbott said, "Oh, that was just Jeremy being silly," So she completely undermined him. And then
he's not a strong person. That's true.
They're all weak and stupid. I mean, that's the thing. They're chosen because they're weak and stupid. And if you're smart, you'd work out. Oh, I'll go and work for the BBC, and
if you're smart, you'd be corrupt. Is your point?
I'm talking about what is most prestigious. So if you're really smart, you join the BBC and you slap these stupid politicians around every time they turn up for you.
BBC's compromised. It's run by the Jews, whatever you want to call it. Like the people, like you can't slap anybody in the BBC because you lose your job.
No, it's just a figure of speech. So
no, you cannot question the politicians on the BBC because the BBC is controlled by the politicians or the people who are controlling the politicians.
Not. I mean, you obviously have never listened to any an interview on the Today program on Radio 4.
Okay.
I mean, they're quite tough, and politicians often complain that the interrupted.
Are they tough on the things that they are not allowed to talk about? Are they like saying, "Oh, why are you supporting the genocide? Why are you, I don't know, all the big topics that they're supposedly not allowed to talk about?"
Okay, I've stopped listening to the Today program a long time ago, but there are plenty of people who don't listen to it. But actually, the Today program is you listen to it if you were a politician and you considered yourself an intellectual taking an interest in British politics. But obviously, most people listen to LBC and they're happy with that, right? So I used to listen to it, and I did know somebody who worked in the BBC, and she was saying to me, yeah, I mean, if you have any brains, you wouldn't be a politician. You join the BBC and question these politicians and give them a hard time because.
But do you get most people, or at least young people, don't even take the BBC seriously? Anything in the establishment is no longer taken seriously. They've lost that completely because. The way the clips that I've seen, anything that comes out of the BBC seems to be supporting the Zionist point of view or the Zionist talking points.
Well, not just that, because you may have heard that Trump is suing the BBC for $1 billion. I forget whether it's dollars or pounds.
Yeah, they made that? What was that about? I can't remember what that was about.
They doctored his, the report. Their reporting of what he said on the 6th of January. Making it sound like he was inciting an insurrection when he wasn't.
Yeah.
And you may know that Deborah Turners, who was the CEO of the BBC, has had to resign.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives are gloating that,
That's not going to suddenly convince everybody that the BBC is somehow the good guys or something. That would be just like a little game they sometimes play just to. I mean, either there's just incompetence, right? Potentially.
They are hated, right? The BBC are hated by Conservatives who know that.
But they're hated by the people who matter, which is most people or most young people.
Yeah, they don't believe, whatever. So they go on social media and at least they get the news on X or here, and feel they can interact and post in the comments. They prefer.
They can trust it more because they seem to be more like honest. Like they can look at what they're saying and they go in social media and go, okay, that makes more sense, and then they can comment as well. Do you say if they disagree? But with BBC, I think
Yeah,
all
you
young
just sit
people
there and
lost
listen.
hope.
Yeah.
It's not just that, but I mean, if you just sat there and listened and they seem to be being honest and saying the right thing, you go, okay, I can't continue listening. But they've completely destroyed their brand. This is gone. Nobody takes them seriously. I don't think so. Nobody
Yeah.
young,
So
only old people who don't know what
yeah.
YouTube
So
is, which like my
yeah,
dad.
and you know what the young say, like you'll be dead soon. We're going to ignore what you think, and you don't even get news from a reliable source because you just sit there like a dummy, taking in all the crap that
Hmm.
you get from the BBC without question, right? I mean
Hmm.
that's what the young think of the old,
Yeah.
boomer tech, can't even use a phone, hate that,
Or
so.
even if they are good at tech, but they're not, like my dad is really good in like technical things on computers, but he won't watch anything on YouTube. So it's just conditioning, I think, of like your whole life. You just put the TV on and listen to it.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's passive, right? It's
yeah.
passive, and they just sit there like a potato
But where
listening to it.
it's not just passive actually. It seems like it's passive, but actually both most of YouTube watching is becoming passive because now when you switch on YouTube, the default is to switch you on YouTube Shorts and you start flicking and you don't even know what's happening. It happens to me. So most of us are passively watching whatever YouTube feeds us now, a lot of it. But I suppose it's, I don't know, less passive maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
It's
you get more of an opportunity to engage in a dialogue by posting a comment or liking or
yeah,
disliking or sharing or
yeah,
whatever. So they can,
yeah.
judge from what you do whether you like it or not, or if it even registered.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you share it
No,
means you like it or
I
hate
agree
it.
with that, but we shouldn't. I think we should also, like, every time I look at a group of people who I go, oh my god, what are they doing? Like, for example, the elderly or older generation who are just passively looking at mainstream media, then you shouldn't start thinking, oh, we're perfect ourselves. And when we start looking at ourselves, we go, oh my gosh, what are we doing that is passive? And a lot of it is we are being fed by the algorithm what to watch, and we just keep watching and keep watching it. And we do get stuck in a sort of mini bubble, and that's why shows like this are good because we've got all sorts of opposite kinds of people. We've got Elliot who got a certain point of view. You got me. We've got slightly different points of view. So yeah, these kind of things are pretty good.
I'll let you take over. I'm expecting a call. But okay.
Okay.
You take over for a bit. Okay.
Okay, cool. I was talked to Elliot for a little bit. So has the BBC accurate report of the nature of crime in Britain? I don't really watch BBC much anymore. And the whole discussion about crime in Britain seems the way it's discussed on mainstream media is controlled by Zionists essentially, who are trying to make poor people fight each other and think other poor people, immigrants, are the problem. Really, we're just being controlled by rich people. So that's kind of my overview answer. And I would say no is another answer. They don't report things. I mean, we've talked about this a number of times, Elliot, about the whole thing about Muslims raping white girls. It's mainly white people raping white girls because they don't even have much sex. Muslims are having plenty of sex. Well, relatively far more sex in being married, and white people are not even married, can't sustain marriage. Wanking mostly over porn. So of course they're gonna, and porn has its effect of leading to pedophilia. I'm not sure if you kind of realize, but the more you watch porn, and it's completely dissatisfying. So you have to watch more and more extreme things, and eventually you're led to, pedophilia. Where do I get my data? Watching lots of videos, and it's not just numbers. But yeah, there are numbers. Yeah, but you do your own research. For example, I've just said, Elliot, consider what the effect of pornography compared to real sex. consider that it makes you just research it, because the same way do you get data doesn't mean anything really. But it's a fair enough question in some ways. Like where are your sources? Where are you learning from? Okay, I think what would be a good response is just YouTube this, research this yourself. What is the effect of pornography on people who watch pornography? Does it get you to watch increasingly extreme forms of sex? And can that possibly lead to pedophilia? And you have to also ask yourself, why is there a massive rise in pedophilia and consumption of pedophilia, pornography, especially in America? Like there's a whole movie on this, kind of like how they're kind of capturing more and more pedophiles, and it's going out of control and whatever. Yeah, so go and find it out. Like, if I give you a link, like I'm saying, like if you're really, so Elliot is asking if you can't see it, if you can't see the live chat, data is the only thing that matters. Yeah, I'm not saying data is not the only thing that matters, but whatever I point at, you might say, oh, I don't agree with that. If you're genuinely interested in making the world a better place and all this kind of stuff, I've just suggested a line of research, and do your own research and check out data that you approve of and see what happens. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So basically, Elliot is saying that Muslims are more rapey than
more rapey, and we've gone over it some number of times. And Elliot's asking, where's the data, which we've already pointed out before.
It's not available because it's not compiled in that way.
No, but there is data available, and I've sent him links, and I've posted it on
Muslim rapists, Christian rapists, Jewish rapists. Have we got that sort of
government data?
I don't think we do.
I've posted it before, but my point, what I'm saying I'm saying more productive way of going about things is like rather than saying, oh, it's not true, and like if you genuinely are interested in or concerned for these poor white girls that are being raped, then okay, do some research on some of the ideas I'm putting forward. Like I was saying, if Muslims are having sex regularly, they've got less reason to be rapey, as it were. And then I was talking about the effect of pornography. So the white people are just generally, they're not in relationships, so they're going to be, be wanking a lot on pornography. And I said the effect of pornography makes you go to more and more extreme forms of sex and eventually pedophilia. And that's not just a claim. You can see there's a massive rise in pedophilia, especially in America. I mean, are you aware of that? There's a whole movie made on this. I forgot what it's called. It's this so-called Christian who's hunting down all the pedophiles. Do you remember that movie?
I think so. It was
a really big movie
a few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago. So that was just pointing out, highlighting the fact that pedophilia is like massively on the rise. And you have to ask, why is this happening? Are people just perverted today? Or a more reasonable point of view would be there's some sort of system that's creating it. People like EMJ, Michael Jones, would tell you, oh, it's just part of the Jewish, plan, because they really support the big pornography.
Sound of Freedom, maybe. Was that the one you were thinking of?
Something like that. Yeah, it sounds about right. Maybe I'll check it, but yeah, it sounds about right. Sound of Freedom.
So you watched it, did you?
I haven't, no, but I saw a million clips around. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Million clips of it, but I didn't really want to watch it because my problem with it is that it makes the guy a hero as if the problem is solved, but not talking about the root cause, which is people not in relationships, not getting married, and therefore looking at pornography, and then it's just not solving the root cause at all.
Yeah. So I mean, you can break it down, right? It's like men of fighting age are more likely to get in trouble with the law than men of, who are older or younger, right? I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? Men of fighting age, whatever their race or religion, are more likely to commit sexual offences than, boys, below that age, or Men older
Okay,
than
so
that.
men of fighting age are young, so therefore their sex drive is higher, and then they'll get involved
They're
in
less likely
sexual
to be
ventures.
married, right? Particularly if they're single. So you've already identified,
Exactly,
the
yeah. I
most
mean, they're
the
not
men
less
most
likely.
likely.
Well, in the West, they're less likely to marry because they've got a problem with marriage in the West. But yeah.
Yeah. So you can identify this group and say, oh, I mean, you can turn it against even the accusers because a lot of these people go on about Muslim grooming gangs. They are themselves bachelors, right? They are themselves
Yeah,
bachelors,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
also part of the problem in that I explained to them, you know, the reason why they're all here is because they've been invited here by their government.
Yeah.
Once they cross the channel, they're put in migrant hotels. They have somewhere to go to. They've been
Mm.
ordered. These men, they've been ordered. They're going to be, put to, I don't know, work in slaughterhouses or whatever it is. That otherwise, why would they be housed in migrant hotels, and why would the government allow it?
Yeah, because the government needs them. They need this relatively cheap labor. I mean, I don't think it's so cheap that it's unreasonable, because products in the UK are not cheap. So clearly, the cheap labor is not that cheap.
Yeah, I once had an
Just that,
Albanian say to me, "How does anybody save up, in this city? Can't afford
yes,
anything." And it was
disaster. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so,
We started off. I think did we start off in talking about my brother who earns way more than me and is in debt? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just a terrible place to. London's a terrible place to live. England's a terrible place to live. I mean,
so
I'm gonna
why
wrap up.
Muslims don't say, with Sharia, you can default in your debts, governments and individuals. Somebody could be saying that, but they're not. I seem to be the only one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how. I mean, I'm not sure if defaulting on your debts is necessarily the only way and the best way, because the Rothschilds have made this system where everything depends on everything, and defaulting on a debt means it's not like the old king system where the king would eventually get tired of paying their debts and then just say forget it, right? They've made a whole web of related financial systems. So if one government defaults on their debt, they're no longer paying Finland, for example, and Finland's paying China, and everybody be mad at each other, and that's how it's designed. To make sure you keep paying your
It's all
bills.
interconnected. But the point
Yeah.
is, we can rebase our currency and start again.
Yes, you can do that. So yes, I'm a big fan of that. There's a Wurgel experiment where an Austrian village basically created some stamps, which is their own currency, and they did really well. And then the banks found out this is after the what do they call it, the Great Depression or whatever. And so they solved their problem, but the banks weren't happy about it, and they banned their currency, and then
Yeah,
that
I mean, there
exploded.
are ways of dealing with it, but once you say that, then people say, "Well, how are you going to do it? Is it going to be this?" And then you can say, "Well, we're going to do it." You will then start addressing the issues. But if people won't even say it, and I find a lot of people just won't say anything in case they get into trouble, right? I like to think I know, educated people who've been to good universities, but they can't even have a, a discussion about what they think is the nature and purpose of religion. Which is a sort of
Mm.
vague and general, discussion. I guess they know because it's me. It's going to be, Sharia and secular Quranism. But should you be concerned if you're white and moaning about Muslims that something went wrong? Something went wrong, and that's why you're moaning about Muslims and blaming the Jews and hating on your government. Something must have gone wrong. Why are your politicians so corrupt?
Mm.
But no, it's like, oh, we must have more elections, and we have to carry on voting, and they won't even consider that maybe voting is part of the problem.
Mm. Well, yeah, lots of interesting points there. Like, is democracy actually a good mechanism for choosing leaders, etc.? I really have to go, but I will. Can I briefly respond to a few people like Holger?
Go
Right,
on.
to your totally. Holger, well, yeah, you're totally right. I was concerned about leaving the Philippines because they had a massive typhoon, but luckily it was a little bit south of where I was, so flight was good. Thanks for worrying, and thanks for your concern. And does Islam forbid pedophilia? Yes, it says you should only marry women. That's true. The Quran says marry women. Some verses are misconstrued, but that's a bad translation. But always ask a Muslim if you're not sure. Does Khalid believe the 72 versions? That doesn't exist. That's just let's say a mistranslation, misunderstanding upon misunderstanding. There's no 72 versions in the Quran, definitely. And video games should be outlawed. That's an interesting point of view. Not all most video games are bad, but I can see that overuse of them can be bad, especially shoot 'em up games, and especially if you don't talk to people in real life. So yeah, I think that's just an extreme. Elliot, I kind of agree with you, though. That's probably one of the few things I agree with you, Elliot. And EMJ is a ranting senile boomer. No, he seems to put together some good ideas. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Me and you, we could both be ranting in our own ways. Anyway, it seems that the longer our live streams, the more people get interested, but I always have to cut off after an hour. It's good that you've got your fan base there.
Well, we'll see if anybody wants to come on and continue the conversation.
Yeah, cool. Sounds like. All right.
So,
hopefully you have fun after me. Take care. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay. All right. Bye. So, I do have a few things to say, but I sort of feel I should have a different stream for it, because they're actually about topics that I want to kind of distinguish between, rather than. So I don't know. Does anybody want to join? If not, I'll end the stream and do it separately. I will put the link in case anybody wants to join. In case, I guess, Elliot wants to join. And we'll see what happens. So I think I was beginning to say that a lot of people can't seem to think their way through problems, possibly because they don't want to seem to be saying anything radical because they're afraid, or they just haven't got the wherewithal to take the next step, or discuss it. And of course, the subject I want to discuss is whether any group needs a rule system. But perhaps it's only something lawyers can think about. Everybody is happy with what they have. They just think that there are the usual troublemakers, and everything will be better once they kick out the Muslims or kick out the Jews and the immigrants, and then everything will be fine again. I think that's really how they think. But I'm saying nothing is going to happen if you cannot use your rule system to organize your longed for pogrom. You won't be able to get to the top of the tree if you don't have some kind of hierarchy to have your issues addressed. And that is really the most important thing. I mean, you could, in theory, have all these government departments and, MPs doing their surgeries who are supposed to care about you, and, the media, and, the mechanism is already there, but there are all these gatekeepers who will not be giving you a sensitive hearing, and you will, because you will be given short shrift. You won't even try the official routes, and for this reason, what you need is accountable leadership, and I guess it's too abstract for people. Leadership. Well, maybe they, Americans think they've got Trump. That's enough. What does it mean to be accountable? Who knows? Who cares? So that, I think, is the problem of people not really caring about the meaning of words, and not caring to actually talk about the meaning of these words in a legalistic and principled way. So that, I think, is really the problem. And obviously, if you take words seriously, as lawyers and interpreters of holy books might, you will get closer to solving your problem. Hello, Elliot. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry. I don't know if this is going to go well. I just woke up 5 minutes ago.
Oh, right. What time is it?
It's 4:47. It's
Oh, my
quarter
goodness.
5.
Oh, gosh. That is early.
Yeah.
Well, it's nearly 1. It's nearly 1 here.
I started exercising again. And, But now every time I exercise, I sleep like a log. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
It's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm suffused in bliss right now.
What form does your exercise take?
It's just simply walking. I walk 5 miles, 5 miles a day, which I used to be able to do really easily, but now it's kind of an endurance event. Oh, well, getting older.
How long does it take you to walk 5 miles?
About an hour and 3/4. Well, I'm not going fast. I mean, I could do it faster, but I'm starting slow because I want to keep it as
something pleasant. Yeah.
I don't want to injure myself, or Usually, what happens is I'll go for a while, but then eventually I'll get sick. I'll get a flu or something, and I sort of lose the habit. And then it takes a while for me to restart the habit. So hopefully I won't get sick this year. And keep things going.
Oh yeah, the winter's coming up. You've stopped swimming in the Pacific, haven't you?
Yes. I decided it's just not worth the risk.
No. I mean, I did see you once after a swim, and I thought you kind of there was a look in your eyes,
Yeah,
that suggested it was a bit of an ordeal.
Yeah, and after I swim in the Pacific, it's like I have to sleep for like 18 hours just
it really knocked you out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to quickly lose weight, but it's an ordeal.
You used to ski, didn't you?
Yeah, I haven't skied in a while, but yeah, I'd like to resume, but it just requires so much travel. It's everything around it that's too aggravating. It's the travel, the accommodations, and
where do you have to go in California? Because there's this idea that you can ski in the morning and surf in the afternoon or something like that.
Yeah, that's more Southern California. There's Lake Tahoe, which is about, without traffic, it's about 4 miles. I'm sorry, 4 hours drive east. So you could theoretically do that here too, but the reality is that traffic, when you would want to go, is when everyone would want to go, and therefore just lots of traffic.
Yes.
And that's just not fun anyway. It's just it's an endurance event just getting there. So
Mm, mm. Did you watch the last stream of Luke? I know he put something on in the middle of the week, and I thought, oh, that's unusual. And
yeah, it was a holiday. It was it Veterans Day?
Oh, Veterans Day. Yes, yes.
So
Yeah. Over here, it's called Remembrance Sunday, so it has to be on the Sunday.
oh, you need a better labor movement. Get a day off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I just missed Khalid. Just getting warmed up. Then he ran off.
Hmm.
Did you guys have a better chat this time, or?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you haven't got the data, right? You can't, you haven't, like, per capita. Muslim men are rapier than Christian or Jewish men. You actually have.
Where did he get this idea that I support pornography? He just goes off on his own tangents and he doesn't listen to what's actually being said. It's very annoying.
Well, I think lots of people are like that. It's like, yeah, we may speak English, but we might as well not, kind of thing. Yeah, I don't think he's a good listener, but I know a lot of people who aren't good listeners.
Is he back in Jordan, or is he still in the Philippines?
Yeah, he's back in Jordan and saying how wonderful Jordan is compared to Indonesia and the Philippines.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And he wasn't successful in his quest to find a Muslim wife in either place.
Oh, that's so
doesn't want to move there, after all.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, it's just terrible. So, I'm trying to get up into political mode. Apparently, the UK economy is in bad shape. Is that true?
That's the news I've been listening to for years and years and years. So maybe it's going to fall off a cliff or something, and that's something I've also read about. But it's like all Western countries are over their heads in debt, and they're borrowing some more. Which is why I think so many people are mentally ill. They're kind of thinking, well, we should have crashed and burned already, and we haven't. So it must be around the corner. But things are still working, and the shops are still open. I don't know. I mean, what about your country? How's your economy?
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem that good. But Trump finally played his boomer card. Yesterday or day before.
By doing what?
He failed to. So you know what an H-1B visa is?
For those Indians.
Yeah.
To work in the tech industry, and when they lose their job, they have to go home. That's what it's about, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
But this was introduced as like a stopgap a temporary stopgap measure. This is how it was sold, but it's been expanded to the point where it's all tech firms are now Indian, and the Indians are incredibly nepotistic.
Of course, because they have family. They still respect the institutions of marriage and the family. This isn't the first time it's happened, because I know people think, what kind of government would just invite a whole bunch of foreigners and take us over? And it's like, actually, it happened in Russia when they invited all those Germans to, come over and farm their land in the Volga region. Do you remember Jonathan? What's his name? He was always he didn't like Jews. Yes, Otto Pol.
Yeah.
So he, so that was what. So basically, the Russians basically invited all those Germans in, and then when after 2 world wars, they kicked them out, and a lot of them, they were given notice and they died on their way to East Germany.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that, but not much.
The silent Holocaust that nobody cares to discuss.
I mean, how many Germans are we talking about here?
I don't know. Well, we can look it up, but he's obviously very obsessed. Focused on making that point to the extent that he seems to make no other. But he has blocked me on it. So.
Yeah, he does have a few.
That was a terrible thing, And it's white people doing it to each other.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, yes. So my point is that, look, white people, Christianity hasn't protected you from each other, let alone, the foreigners you're always complaining about. It's like, if you look, you can actually ask AI, like, did Christians kill more Christians than non-Christians? And AI will say, actually, Christians kill more Christians than they killed other religious groups. And yeah.
Don't we need a religion that's just a bit more simple and direct and to the point?
Yes.
Right, and not abstruse like Islam.
No, it's Christianity that is vague and opaque, because there are no rules. I mean, I keep explaining to people, if you're forced to play a game, you need to know the name of the game, you need to know the object of the game, and you need to know the rules of the game, because if you don't, you're going to lose, right? People are going to cheat you left, right, and center. You won't even know.
That's the beauty of Buddhism, though. It's like very, very succinct. 5 moral precepts. No men on horses, no flying horses, no pedophilic founders, no bugaboos about drawing the prophet.
But you don't want to be Thailand or Tibet, do you? You don't want to be, or Sri Lanka. You don't want to be that. And sadly for the Buddhists and Hindus, that they have not acquired much empire. In fact, they have been acquired by bigger empires, and whatever we think of Christianity is the Christians who got their global empires.
Well, China was predominantly Buddhist for a while there, wasn't it?
Well, China's, yes, kind of the odd one out, but
but it's a superpower. I mean, you just said there's no superpower. Then give an example of a superpower.
Yeah, but they're having demographic problems, and if you listen to how the Chinese go on about their identity issues on Twitter in Spaces, they're not happy bunnies. It's like, oh, what's happening to us? We don't even want to have children anymore, and we're mostly gay, and we can't bear the idea of marrying each other. Blah blah blah. And it's like, oh, I've heard that somewhere before. So I really think the mind of Chinese people, even though they speak a different language, is already colonized by Western ideas of feminism and democracy and liberalism. They haven't tried it, and they think they want to. And if your population is going to halve every, I don't know, however many years, you're dealing with an unstable situation. But anyway, I think it's quite. I'm sure a lot of non-Chinese people do end up getting Chinese nationality when they go and live and settle there. So
yeah, no.
So I think everybody's going to be full of foreigners.
What about the Uyghurs?
I think that they're okay now, because when they were committing acts of terrorism, it was because of unemployment and not being properly trained, and I think that's already been addressed. So I guess they're happily running their businesses and working in their jobs or whatever.
No, yeah, I think that we probably get a lot of propaganda, anti-China propaganda, that we're not aware of. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what the true state of affairs in China is.
Well, people should go because I think it's quite an eye opener. It certainly was with me. You know, really clean streets, speaking English. Yeah, and sort of things that are clearly more advanced than what you have in the West. And the drone shows, you know, like wow, and it's free.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Who decided that we needed these weird technological displays and that we need to go to Mars? All this stupid shit that people seem to think that we care about or that are important. You know, we have all of these automated cars now driving around, and they're ugly. It's just dumb, you know. But
Have you been in a driverless car?
no, on principle, I would never do that.
Well, I spoke to somebody who said he was in one and he's used to it now. Haha. So
Yeah,
I haven't been in one, but you know, maybe we are, you know, a couple of buddy duddies.
oh, I think so. I think so. I like driving. I think it's just so relaxing, you know. It's just so nice. Then somebody decided that nobody really likes to drive. I can't wait to drive. I see it as ultra enjoyable.
Yes.
And
Well,
then
it's a
just sit there,
skill,
just
isn't
sit in the
it?
back of a car that's being driven by a robot, you know. It just seems like terrible. I would be so nervous looking in the driver's seat and not seeing anybody there. They should put a
Can you?
mannequin in it at least, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
perhaps when you do it, it might not be so alarming. Um, I suppose I would get into one just to say I've been in one, you know. But then, you know,
yeah,
what are all those Uber drivers going to do? That there's going to be a lot of people with nothing to do, and I think they will get angry.
yeah, they should. What they're going to start doing is throwing rocks through the windshield of those cars, making them too expensive to operate.
Yeah.
A true Luddite rebellion.
Well, I think all empires fall because they haven't managed their labor problem.
Right.
Right. I think, you know, it goes all the way back to Moses and the Pharaoh's labor problems. That's why he wouldn't let Moses and his people go, right? It's like, who's going to build my pyramids and, you know, plow the fields or whatever they, you know, did if they weren't building pyramids.
I
You
thought
know,
Egypt was primarily just a
agricultural.
wheat growing region for the Romans. I think it was probably a different climate back then, but that's where Rome got all its wheat.
Yeah, but I mean, agriculture is very labor intensive, so you know you need lots of people doing stuff. I mean,
but I don't think they were making pyramids. I don't think that was their fundamental activity. I think that was a sort of a long-term project. You know, I mean, how many pyramids were there?
Well, I don't know, but obviously, if you know the slaves left, the pharaoh would be, you know, faced with a labor problem, and you know the background was, I think they were complaining. You know, I think during the time of Joseph, the Hebrews were doing, you know, were walking tall and being well treated, and then eventually they ended up as slaves. And then I think they complained about their conditions, and the pharaoh just made it worse, just to, you know, shut them up and show them who's boss. And then they decided to go, and you know, well, the pharaoh tried to prevent them. But even the Romans, they had you know, problems with their plebs, right? So it was all about. I mean, the plebs actually said, "We want laws. We want the, you know, us to have rights, and we want you to, you know, make clear what those laws are." And they, you know, a few of them did get killed, but eventually they had their rights carved in the Forum, in the 12 tables of Rome. saying what they had to do, and if they wanted to start a legal action, what the procedures were, and their responsibilities and duties and rights. So it all comes from the written word, right? And that, I think, is a beginning of law. Because if you don't have the written word, if you can't have a legal system, then you're forced to go to your king, who might be in a good mood today, but for the next person who commits the same crime, he might be in a bad mood, and punish him severely while letting you off. So that's why we need, precedents and case law and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I heard that Egypt was, at least for a period, was very bureaucratic. There was a lot of rules about how much work you needed to do, and you had checkers checking on you, and then you had checkers checking on the checkers, and then you had checkers checking on the checkers who were checking on the check. There's a lot of
imperial bureaucracy. But obviously, government and administration go hand in hand, and if you're going to have an empire, you just need to kind of know what you have and what you have to do. And it's like the Doomsday Book, when William, during the Norman Conquest, he said, well, I want to know how much land I have and how many people live on the land and what, blah blah blah. And I guess it's all about keeping tabs on us. And I'm sure, people at the time were very happy to be, asked how much they produced, how much they owned, because then, the bad people at the top would, might come and take them. But okay, back to religion and law. I just don't see how people can escape from the fact that if we want accountable government, then we have to, collectively as a group, whatever our group is, say, well, we are the people who believe in X, and we always do Y and never do Z. And that's, that's basically the three elements of any religion. And to be part of it, to enjoy the group benefits of the this religion, you have to say, yes, I believe in this thing that you guys believe in. I will never do all these things, but I always do the other things. And then you are admitted into the group, and if you really obey the rules properly, you'll get to the top.
Well, in the Buddhist world, the it's literally called Dharma, which is the law. It's literally the law.
It's cause and effect, isn't it? Dharma is cause and effect.
But the rules are spelled out, and they're called laws. And if you want to call yourself a Buddhist, you have to obey these laws.
Yeah, but they're a bit vague, aren't they? The Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. I mean, it's only a personal ethical system. It doesn't say, nobody can do...
Nobody believes these religious pronouncements, right? Kali doesn't believe that there's 72 virgins. He just...
But he kind of believes that, there will be a heaven where, the good guys get their reward. That's good enough.
Or is this just something that's believed? Is this specified in the Quran? Where are these things written down? Is this part of the Quran or not? I don't recall.
Well, the idea of the afterlife is important in creating the idea that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life and the next. Right. I mean, the concept of the afterlife is necessary. Otherwise, we'll just look around us and say, well, we don't see a lot of good being rewarded and evil punished in this life, in the present or in the past. Looking at history books. So that is why, in order to create this moral system, you have to, imagine an afterlife where all these things are taken care of. And in order for it to be logical to believe that these things will be taken care of, you have to believe in the Abrahamic God who has the ability to do these things.
See, Buddhism is a lot easier to. It has cause and effect, right? So you don't have to go into these weird notions of a capricious God doing something, or
why does anybody think that the Abrahamic God is capricious?
Why do you think that?
Well, because
to
correctly believe in him, you have to think he's perfectly moral.
But then you can't eat shrimp, and then there's all kinds of weird.
It's probably a good idea not to eat shellfish if you live, because
but the thing is, but there's no. That seems capricious.
Well, in the sense that it's kind of we are the people who always do X and never do Y. It's that sort of idea. It's dietary restrictions are part of our religious identity. I mean, even non-Jews and non-Muslims will have their thing, like be vegans or vegetarians or whatever, and then kind of claim it as some kind of religious practice. Because people think about their food, don't they?
But what I'm saying is rather than being forced to believe a bunch of arbitrary assertions, which, let's face it, these faiths that rely on these arbitrary assertions are breaking down. They can't withstand modernity.
Only because people so far are happy to submit to the liberal order, and by this I mean Jews, Christians, and Muslims. They because liberalism so far is supreme, but the American empire is declining, isn't it? Because Americans are don't want to be imperialists. They would like their government to look after them properly and not be starting all those neocon wars that they can't see the point of.
Yeah, neocons are taking a hit these days. The intellectual foundation that has sort of held them in place for the past 30 years is getting a bit crumbly. You following any of this?
Well, yes, sort of, but I mean, I may miss a few things. Do you want to acquaint me with the latest developments as you see them?
So, do you know who Tucker Carlson is, right?
Yes.
And Nick Fuentes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Tucker Carlson had the most popular news program for a number of years on Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was kicked out of Fox for some reason or another. I don't know if it was his anti-neocon stance or not, but he was kicked out of Fox. And then he started his own podcast. And his podcast was pretty popular and remains pretty popular. And it's probably more popular than it's been.
2-hour interviews with interesting people, including Putin. And
yeah, and people that are they're not within the often they're not within the mainstream.
He interviewed Andrew Tate.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah. And then this other guy, I'm forgetting his name, but who had sort of alternate analysis of World War II. That was what was his name? I forgot his name, but he had revisionist historians of various stripes would come on, and so he became more and more marginal, but still popular. But then a week or two ago, he had on Nick Fuentes as a guest, and
they wanted to cancel him from the Heritage Foundation, but the Heritage Foundation guy stood up for him.
He did, but then he backed down.
Oh no!
Yeah, he immediately backed down afterwards. he was neocons brought down the hammer, and so he had this pathetic Weasley denunciation. He had to go out and denounce himself on public TV.
So you have to say that again. I didn't catch that.
Oh, he publicly basically denounced himself. It was a struggle session, and then
right. He
and then he had to do
resiled from his position.
He didn't have to resign, but he had to basically explain. He had to declare that he was in an error. He had made a mistake, that he'd let people down, and he had to do all sorts of things, including attend a Shabbat dinner.
I didn't say resign. I said resile from his position of questioning Israel.
Resile?
Yeah, RESILE.
Oh, what does that mean? I've never heard that.
It means abandon a position or a course of action.
Oh, isn't that the same as resign?
No. I mean, resign is when I guess you give up your position. But I guess walk back. I guess the modern way to put it would be walk back on.
Yeah. So I don't.
Right. So he's now a neocon again, is he?
Yes.
And he supports Israel.
He got his mind right, apparently.
Uh-huh.
So you haven't followed any of this story?
Well, I know he had Nick Fuentes on, and Nick Fuentes, was kind of big in the news for a bit. And yeah, obviously knew that this Heritage Foundation guy with a beard was supporting him, but I didn't know that this support was withdrawn. So, well,
he supported. So just to be technical here, he supported Tucker and not Nick Fuentes. So he didn't. Initially, he came out and he supported Tucker's right to have whoever he wanted on the program, including Nick Fuentes. And so he didn't. This tolerance of Tucker's behavior was what Heritage needed to apologize for. And so initially he didn't want to apologize, and then eventually he did apologize.
Mm-hmm.
But just to be clear, there was a big move to basically cancel Tucker for platforming Fuentes.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, at the end of the day, Fuentes' stock has exploded through the roof. He's basically a household name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember years back on the Jim Goad stream that Luke had.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Fuentes was like one of the guests on that stream.
Oh wow! I don't remember that. I only remember Jim Goad. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Is it available for viewing?
He was probably 20 years old at the time. If
not
younger.
Yeah. I remember he blocked me on X. Nick Fuentes did.
Yeah, I know, but you were watching the Jim Goad stream.
Yes.
And there was this whole thing where Jim Goad had sex with a young black teenager or something. And Nick Fuentes was lambasting him. You don't remember any of this?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I remember the subject, but I don't remember.
Okay, but now, so fast forward 7 years later, Nick Fuentes is front page news. I find
Luke must be very pleased.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, is it still saved somewhere so we can watch it?
I imagine it's somewhere, yeah. I don't know if it's publicly available or not. I'll ask Luke next time I talk to him.
Yeah.
So anyway, but
well, so the competition between anti-Semites is between Fuentes and Jones, right?
Yeah, so it's
Fuentes Zuma versus Boomer.
When Fuentes has become sort of the figurehead of the anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, I should say, narrative. But the neocons do this twist where they just call any anti-Israel criticism as automatically anti-Semitic, right? This is the rhetorical game they play, and but Nick Fuentes just doesn't. He says, "Fine, then I'm anti-Semitic." Then he doesn't. Being called anti-Semitic is not the scarlet letter that it once was, and this is a new feature of American politics now. Things have changed. I said all of this preceding stuff just to say that the political landscape in the U.S. has changed pretty considerably now, and it's noticeable.
Well, yes, because then it'll become generational. Because I guess EMJ and Fuentes are competing for top dog position on being leader of the anti-Semite, right?
EMJ doesn't matter. Nobody knows EMJ. EMJ is obscure at best. Nobody knows who EMJ is.
Well, I think what you're saying is nobody cares who he is because he's boomer. He's a boomer, right? I think
he's a boomer, Tradcast, and he just doesn't have any real traction that I'm aware of.
Well, the thing is, you were the one who said, I don't know what he's talking about, right?
Yes.
And I think that's part of his problem. He, maybe treats the audience as some kind of, as a lecturer might treat his students who are interested in the subject, when most of the time they have no idea what he's talking about. Like Daniel Boone,
no matter what question he's asked, he goes on a strange diatribe about logos. It doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot to ask Khaled if he understands what what EMJ is trying to tell him. I mean, I didn't mind looking up all the names afterwards because, a lot of the references were obscure to me. And I, ended up learning, something of American history that, probably a lot of Americans no longer know about,
You've seen those interviews, those sort of joke interviews of men with microphones going up and asking people utterly basic questions about American history, and people don't know. What country did we fight in the Revolutionary War? Who was Abraham Lincoln? Just the utterly comic book, infantile basics people still don't know. So then when you talk about like George Washington and his farewell address, and nobody's going to know anything about that or care.
Well, I think it's terrible that you don't care. You don't even respect your founding fathers, and therefore you deserve everything that you get.
I care. I think it's interesting, but there's not going to be a revival of interest in George Washington in the U.S. The culture has changed so dramatically because it's been 30 plus years of Marxism. And part of Marxism is sort of, is castigating the white man and everything he said, because everything he did was evil, and therefore, so they don't even bother learning any of the ideas because the people articulating those ideas were white. So you have a population of ignoramuses.
Okay, this is how I'd manage it if I wanted Americans to take an interest. It would be, to get some media outlet to do it, CNN or, NBC or, any of them to sort of, founding fathers, one party state, political, all that. Somebody could do it. Some intellectual could be platformed, or okay, if they're not going to do it, a YouTuber could do it. couldn't they? But I
I'm
don't
sure
think anybody's interested in discussing
I'm sure
like
many
that.
have, and I'm sure these videos exist, and I'm sure a very small niche group likes them and finds them interesting. Like, what is it called? The Rest is Politics or The Rest is History? You've seen that podcast, right?
Well, it rings a bell, but I can't remember who's doing it.
Well, there's two English blokes, and they have a chat with each other about various events in history, and they go into deep detail, and it's pretty interesting. But sometimes they take on American topics too of history. But there isn't the widespread deference for history that you would need to have a movement around history sort of take root. It's just the numbers aren't big enough. People are phone addicted. They don't want to. They want an immediate, endorphin rush when they pick up their phone. They don't want to go into deep, complex, remote topics.
Okay, well, we can ignore those people, but surely there are people who still consider themselves to be intellectuals and academics. So I see The Rest is Politics is a podcast by Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, who used to be MPs, Labour and Conservative, but I haven't watched any of that.
Okay, and then The Rest is History. There's another podcast which is called The Rest is History, which is probably a play on the words of The Rest is Politics. It's raining, Claire. It's hard to get up from the rain.
Oh, Dominic Sandbrook and Tom Holland.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, it seems to be commanded by the British. These podcasts, but yeah. So okay, these people can do it, but they're not going to platform. My idea. I've been trying to get the. Actually, I don't really bother talking to the British. I only talk to the Americans because the Americans are the most important people because Trump and global hegemon and everything. But I thought for these
let's talk about Trump. So
yeah.
So we got onto this conversation because of the H-1Bs, right? And so the anti-H-1B movement is clearly and demonstrably an America first initiative. And so he's taken some steps against H-1Bs, but he's not really gone far enough. And another part of this is there's a lot of international student visas being issued. So, and so I think it's like 600,000. And they're essentially propping up the universities, the American universities here. But they've lost their American character now because they're all Chinese.
Sorry, who's Chinese?
The student body of many American universities is becoming more and more Chinese or international in flavor.
Right.
And see, the thing about them is international students pay the full tuition. There's no scholarships offered. So these universities need these students because they pay all the bills. The Americans get these subsidized tuition rates and so forth that economically these universities can't survive without these international students. And so but there's also a push to give Americans priority now, but Trump of course looks at it as a business deal, and he just sees the numbers, and he's not truly ideologically committed to America first in the way his supporters would like. And so these issues are coming to a head now. And it's been fun to watch. And he's going to lose support, I'm afraid. A lot of support.
Mhm.
Who's P?
Hello, Comrade Michael. Do we know you?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
There we go.
I quite like the music.
Is this Russian or German?
It's Russian. Well, I thought he was going to speak to us about something interesting, but yes, he's a commie, Comrade Michael. Thank you for making your presence known. Okay, so have you recently read Washington's farewell speech? I bet you haven't. It's got very long sentences.
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, of course not. I haven't read it.
Yeah.
Well, I've dwelt upon it. I remember dwelling upon it in school, though. Yes. Entangling alliances, faction, no entangling alliances. These were the two key messages that he wanted to impart.
So many other things. When I first heard it, I thought they've just ignored everything. It's like they did it on purpose. Michael Malzahn says that you may be confused. Most major US universities have huge endowments and are hardly struggling financially.
The Ivy League universities probably have a huge endowment, and they're probably but they still have a lot of international students at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
These are big, like these big universities have a big footprint in buildings. They're probably very expensive to maintain. So I think both are true. I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, he had a direct conversation with Laura Ingraham on Fox News about this. So
he had a direct conversation with whom?
Laura Ingraham, who is a Fox News presenter.
Trump did with Laura Ingraham.
Yes.
Right. So, you think Tucker is now officially a neocon who supports Israel?
No, not Tucker. Tucker has all the money he needs. He can remain independent and has remained independent, and he did not kneel to the neocons. But the Heritage Foundation guy, I forgot his name, he initially supported Tucker, but then withdrew his support after massive pressure was applied to him by the neocons. So that's where this drama stands now. It's also
so. I remember that he's quite a young guy with a beard. This person who supported
Tucker I'd say
initially.
he's in his 40s. Yeah, it looks like he's in his 40s.
Gosh, it's full of women. I'm just looking at it. The directors, it's mostly women. It's actually quite frightening. Foundation? Well, staff directors.
Yeah. At the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Men are definitely the minority. Okay, I'm going to give you the link. I'll post it in the chat so everybody can really it is quite alarming, really. I mean, I think now is a time for women to renounce feminism, because you can imagine everything is going to turn to shit. All the women will be in charge. We're going to get all the blame. So now would be a good time to distance oneself from feminism as one is female.
Yeah, what do you think of Helen Andrews? Do you like Helen Andrews? She's right up your alley now.
Helen Andrews. Let me just see what she looks like.
She's got basically your worldview minus the Islam part.
Oh yes, I've seen her before. She's
Luke plays her often on the show.
Yeah, and I think she was kind of complaining about her boomer parents. I remember. Yes, why is everything geared, to the preferences of boomers, and what have they done, and blah blah blah. Yeah. Um, I mean, back to what I was beginning to try and say, and it is that nobody even wants to hear the arguments about why white people can no longer continue pretending that their religion is still Christianity, because they don't really believe in it, and they will not do anything other than kind of, I don't know, just wear it like some brooch or something, but they won't do anything for it. It's just a cultural affiliation that they don't quite believe in. And of course, it's failed them repeatedly over the centuries. So I don't know why. I guess, it's kind of sentimentality, right? It's the only identity. It's the only ancient identity I know.
Yeah, it's not a strong affiliation anymore. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
It's been taken over by, so all the churches have been taken over by woke
foreigners and women
and homosexuals, who have basically redrawn the theology to suit their modern preferences.
Kevin Roberts was the Heritage Foundation guy, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't think without religion, men would even be prepared to die for the principle of being men. And that, I think, is fundamentally the problem. It doesn't matter that, men are saying, I don't feel like dying for anything, actually. But you have to kind of pretend that you would, or say you would, and hope you'll never be forced to do that. But if you're not prepared to say it, then I guess you'll continue to be pushovers.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because so the people that actually do the fighting in the military are white men from the South, from red state South.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people that have been pushed to the side politically. And so you have to wonder, like, for how long are these men going to be willing to fight for the United States? If there's nothing in it for them, and they're hated and despised and so forth,
They're going to get the immigrant men to join the army, right? You'll get citizen if you fight for America.
Yeah, but that's, what is that, mercenaries? So we're going to be...
Well, they won't be, strictly speaking, mercenaries, and then, they'll get their citizenship, and I guess they'll be kicking the white people around in their new positions of authority, in the police and the armed forces and stuff, right?
Yeah, that'll be a new world.
Yeah, it's happening even now. So fundamentally, we can see what the problem is. It's because white people didn't take marriage seriously enough for about 50 years. 50 years they refused to take it seriously, and after 50 years they can't bring themselves to take it seriously. They would rather die, and that's why it can't just go back to what it was, because you haven't got the personnel to make it happen. And also, you haven't got the mindset to say, well, this is what we must do. A few of us will have to take a hit, but and get hurt, or have to make some kind of sacrifice. And sadly, because men are now told that they are no better than women, they will behave like women, whose best strategy is to be risk averse. Right. I mean, it doesn't pay women to, be great explorers and great warriors, because, well, they don't have to. And if they did try, they wouldn't do it very well.
Yeah. Yes, terrible, woeful state of affairs.
And that is why you need religion to kind of frighten men and women into marrying each other young enough to make a difference. And that is what all the religions that you've heard of have done historically. It's like, well, if the only thing we can get right is to make people marry before having children, well, we'll just try and keep doing that. And that's really the common feature of all the world religions, including Buddhism. But you see, Buddhism has a problem with priests who are basically parasitic. I mean, let's admit it. So Christians have a parasitic priesthood. The Jews once had a parasitic priesthood, and now they're gone. And Islam says you don't need a priesthood. The closest people that is the people most closely resembling the priesthood would be the judiciary, and it's something you should already have anyway if you're a properly run country, right? So it in terms of kind of economy, Islam has it all, really. It's like, no, you don't need a separate priesthood. You just train your judiciary to, decide, things in a Quranic way, and, you've got your theocracy. And your human rights, and your First Amendment. So I think, yes?
I'm kind of joking here. I'm having like a lung issue. I'm gonna have to drop.
Okay.
But I'll be listening.
Right. So I we were talking about media messages, media narratives. And I'm saying for Americans, it's actually quite arguable to say that the founding fathers were proto-Muslim because obviously being educated and intelligent men, they weren't having the King of England telling them to pretend that they believe that Jesus is the co-equal of God. And so it was really the American Republic that began a series of Republican revolutions that ended Christendom in 1918. So there was the American Revolution, which led directly to the French Revolution because Louis, King of France, spent so much money sponsoring the Revolutionary Wars in America that he found himself in debt, and he had to pay back the interest. And of course, the Catholic Church said, well, we never asked for the stupid war, so we won't pay. The Baron said, how are you going? You and whose army are going to make us pay the debt? So the burden of repaying the debt fell on the third estate. The Catholic Church was the first estate, the second estate were the barons, and the third estate were the commoners, the middle classes, and the peasants who had to repay the debt, and they weren't happy, and the rest is history, as you know. So once you cut off a king's head, it becomes easier the next time round, and I think you'll have to blame the English again for cutting the heads of kings. The first time was 1649 when Oliver Cromwell had Charles I executed in 1649. So, and of course, it became easier for the Russians to exterminate the entire royal family, the Romanovs. So 1918 was a very bad year for the Christian monarchs of Europe because Nicholas II, Tsar of Russia, was killed with the entire Russian royal family, as I was saying, and the Austrian emperor had to abdicate as well as the German emperor. And they're obviously, the kingdoms with the most, well, they were called the great powers. Britain was just an offshore island at the time. But yeah, that began the end of monarchy. Certainly the end of absolute monarchy. So now we have a constitutional monarchy, and it's not doing anyone any good, really. The British monarchy is very useful for the American Empire because it controls territories in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, which is put at the disposal of the American Empire. So I think that's why The Crown, which is a very sumptuous drama series, was sponsored by Netflix in America. The BBC just wouldn't dare spend so much money making such a drama series. And so the British monarchy is very useful as a diplomatic instrument of the American Empire. And so I guess we're all in it together. All these ancient institutions still being used as part of the American Empire. It's not just in Europe too. The Gulf kingdoms, the Gulf states are Gulf kingdoms, and what I think America finds very useful is that you have a king. The king, unless he's overthrown, will be seen to represent his people, but he doesn't need to consult them, right? He doesn't need to have a referendum on doing whatever. He just agrees with whoever what he wants to agree with, and he doesn't need to consult the people. And if the people complain, they can be executed, they can be imprisoned, they can be fined or exiled. So the problem for Muslims, and I don't think a lot of them understand the problem, is that most Sunnis, or significant number of Sunnis, live in absolute monarchies. And for that reason, their Islamic scholars are not able to give their true opinion on the interpretation of this or that verse. And we already know what happened to William Tyndale, who translated the Bible into English. The Catholic Church didn't want any of their power, their secret power, their ability to read the Bible in Latin or Greek. They didn't want to be bypassed. So there was some argument about which words were to be translated, and William Tyndale wouldn't give in. And anyway, he was burnt at the stake. So all kinds of terrible things can happen to you if you live under an absolute monarchy, and this explains that the last 250 years of Western history, the kind of vomiting out of this ancient institution that could be so oppressive. And this began with the founding of the American Republic. And obviously, if you want to be a republic, you need to be able to say what the rules are. I suppose you could have an absolute dictator with no right to pass on his leadership position to his sons or male members of his family. But what you really need to do is to make sure that the best person in the country is leading the country. And it is not necessarily the son of the current king. And that, I think, explains why so many terrible wars are fought by unwise monarchs who shouldn't have started wars they couldn't finish, to their credit. And if we were more of a meritocracy, which a republic could be, we will have better government. And that is why it is necessary to reject the ancient institution of monarchy, even though currently Britain is a constitutional monarchy, but what does it do other than put at the disposal of the Americans the resources of the people of Canada, New Zealand, and Australia? Surely they have a right to enjoy good government. So it is my hope that when these territories break away from the control of the British Crown, they will adopt the most sensible option available, which is to become a constitutional republic. So what kind of a republic would they want? Do they trust their corrupt and incompetent leaders to continue making up the rules as they go along? Or would they just like a book of rules that has quite a good track record of keeping those pesky Muslims in existence? I'm saying the answer is obvious to me. I think if my suggestions and recommendations were adopted, it would result in better government for all concerned, and as well as better international relations and fewer wars. So I hope that these matters can be discussed by educated and intelligent people, and it's not just me monologuing to myself. But sadly, my fellow YouTubers have been very disappointing, and most disappointing of all have been Muslims who can only talk about whether God exists and have shown no inclination to make a manifesto out of the Quran, as I have been doing. So I think I've finished what I wanted to say. Thank you all for coming. I hope I managed to make a bit of sense.